Hello YouTube. The other day I went over to the old man's place to pick up my Swaf shavings of my plastic that I've been turning. Okay, now the issue I have is I can melt this down, but the problem is I've been turning other sorts of plastic, and I have another bag, and we have mixed plastics, different types of plastic. And this was at the bottom of the lathe. Okay, so we've got the different sorts of plastic here. We've got HDPE, we've got styrene, we've got white, and we also have some low density PE plastic. Alright, so the problem is, if I'm going to melt this down, how am I going to sort it out? I can sort it out by finding all the white ones and pulling it out, but then that might take quite a while to do. So I've done some research online, and we're going to try and separate it another way. What we need when we're trying to sort the different types of plastic is, we need a cup, we need water, we need salt, and we need our different sort of plastic. Alright, what we do is we need scissors. What we do is we just chop up the plastic as best you can, smaller bits, probably blocking the camera. Do it the other way around. Once we cut up our plastic into little bits, and in your container, what we do is we grab our water, we pour the water in, okay, so basically you give it a bit of a tap, a bit of a stir. Okay, what we're going to do is going to be separating it by density. Okay, the heaviest stuff that falls to the bottom is styrene, and the stuff at the top is HDPE, or low density polyethylene. Well, now, what we do with the salt is, to help it along, pour some salt in there. We stir it. Pour some more salt in there. And you'll notice that the styrene falls to the bottom. Stir some more, give it a poke. Okay, we can put some more salt in there. The heavier styrene falls to the bottom. Okay, we still have other floating bits of styrene. Okay, but basically that gets us rid of all the heavy bits of styrene. Okay, if you do this in a bigger container, like a bucket, put salt in, then all we do is we scoop up the top, this stuff here, and then we're going to go into another process. Okay, in the next step, what we're going to do is we're going to take acetone. We're going to scoop out the contents that are floating at the top. Going to transfer that into a bucket, big bucket. Then we're going to pour the acetone in. And what will happen is the HDPE won't melt, whereas the styrene will melt to the bottom, and that's what we want. I could have just put this whole entire batch of plastic into our bucket, a big bucket, then just pour the acetone over the top. But the idea of the water separator here is so we don't have to put as much styrene into the bucket. Okay, the best thing is we don't really want to be putting the what we got to do is scoop out our plastic and we'll dry it off. If you're using a bigger bucket, what you'd do is you'd use your pool scooper. Alright, since we only have a little bit here, what we want to do is we want to dry the plastic. We don't want to be putting the wet plastic into the acetone. Alright. Okay, important thing to have, safety glasses. When using acetone, be very careful. It's not a children's play toy thing. Alright, so what we do now is we just take our plastic, get our bucket, and we just drop it in our bucket. Okay. Alright, it's in our bucket. Okay. We still have floaties on top here. If I was to do it better, I would scoop that all out, but to save time. Okay, so we've got our things in there. What we now do is I'll put some more in there in a minute, but just get our acetone. We have to make sure that our bucket is approved. Make sure it's HDPE. If you look on your bottle of acetone, it'll be HDPE. So it's a chemical grade, and this will be a chemical grade as well. What we do is we pour the acetone into the bucket. Alright. Got to make sure that we just pour the lot in there. Okay, the reason why we pour the acetone in there is to try and separate out our styrene. Just like that. What happens is the styrene will melt and it'll come towards the bottom. Then we'll give it a mix, and we should be able to separate out our plastic, because the styrene will go all to the bottom. As you can see now, styrene is starting to melt a bit, and what we'll have left at the top will be just, that's easy to move around, will be just our HDPE. Alright, So we'll give that about 10 minutes or so. We'll come back, have a look. Then we'll give it another 10. Have a look. As you can see at the moment, the styrene has settled to the bottom. Not all of it has separated out yet, but that's been probably about 15 minutes. Okay, so take it a bit longer to actually sink to the bottom and stick to the bottom. Then what you do is you just come and you scrape it out. Just scrape it out. Then we dry it out. It will take a while to dry, but that's how we separate the styrene from our HDPE. I've done some experimenting with the melting of the the recycling of the HDPE plastic and the styrene. Okay, we can actually individually take the separator, put it into our mold. But this takes a while to do, and it's not you won't get it 100% error prone. You will get little bits and pieces that seem to sneak in while you're doing it. And this one was all done by separating. Okay. This one here was done with just putting the whole lot straight into the mold. It will melt together. With the HDPE, the milk bottle material, it will melt at a higher. It'd be on its melting range, and with the styrene, it'll be on its bottom range. So that will seem to mix. Now the good thing with doing this is that you can combine it, like the different plastics. Okay, the good part about it is that you will be able to glue onto it depending on what you're trying to make. You can glue onto it, which is a bonus, and it does make it strong and hard at the same time. Like styrene is normally strong, but it's rather brittle. Now with the HDPE, it makes it strong. It takes that brittleness away from it. Alright, but it does take time to do. Just this one took like probably an hour in the mold and in the oven. Squish it down with my plunger. Okay, separating the HDPE and the styrene using the acetone. That was a bit of a fail. It works, but time to do it takes quite a while. What you can do is if these were all chopped up roughly about the same size, if you put it in a blender, and if it was the same size, then possibly it might work better. Alright, now if you had blended it up and if you put it in the acetone, what would happen is that ideally the HDPE will be at the top and the styrene will sink to the bottom, will dissolve and lay at the bottom of the container. But what I've found is that when I've been using the acetone, just like this, what happens is the styrene melts and it comes down and it'll stick on a flat surface. It act a bit like a filter and it won't go down any further. The only way you'll be able to make it go down further is if you agitate the plastic around so that the styrene would be upside down or on its side. And that way the styrene would, when it would melt, it would go through and land at the bottom. But that's a problem I'm facing doing this into the acetone. Right, now if you had ground it up and put it into a water bath with your bit of salt. Now if you ground it up, that'll all be the right size. Now being the right size, you'd be able to float separate it. Now the problem I had with is that because it's not the right size, some are big, some are small. The big ones will rise and some of the smaller ones will sink, and some of the other bigger ones for the styrene will rise as well. So if you did probably quite a few baths, then once you get the small bits out, then you can go for the bigger bits, and that would take you quite a while as well. So ideally you probably need to try and grind them up some way into a manageable size that you can float separate. So all in all, the best way I think to separate the styrene from the HDPE when it's in the Swaf form is at the point of when you're turning. Make sure the tray is clean and do one plastic at a time. Do one plastic at a time. Do your blacks, do your whites, and that would be much more energy efficient. But depending on what you're doing, maybe you might want to have it as a mixture. That can have some benefits when you're wanting to glue a bit of styrene onto something or other, and that just makes it much more excuse me, appealing to do. So yeah, that would be my pick of the way you would energy efficient would be to sort it as you're actually turning it or you're machining it. Make sure your machine it's clean. Then all you do is you take off your HDB plastic. Then once you do all that sort of plastic, then you can change over into another plastic. So it does remelt down, so it's not a waste. It's pretty good. This one melts down together, so which is also good. And the styrene would melts down. Just little bits I've done here. I've picked these out. So these work just fine like themselves, and I can make a bigger billet like that. In the mould. See ya.